All right, it's a pleasure to be on the Farbrengan tonight. The topic of Tefilla actually is very, very close to Lubavitch, because if not for Tefilla, we wouldn't be here gathered tonight. You know, the stories told about the Alter Rebbe that he was on the way, didn't know where to go. He should go to Vilna or to go to Mizrich, and he says, in Vilna, I'm going to learn how to learn. I know how to learn, but in Mizrich, I'm going to learn how to daven. So if not for the fact that he made a right turn by that crossroads, we wouldn't be here having Farbrengan, a group of Mechanchos, Mechanchos, talking about Tefillah. I'd like to, 1 second, how do I share the screen? What's going on here? 1 second, oopsie. 1 second, I'm sorry.
No problem, take your time.
How did I get
do you see on the bottom, share screen?
My screen
green?
I don't know why. 1 minute.
No problem.
Here you go. I have it. Okay. Here you go. Okay. Go share screen. Okay. Basically, the idea of davening is that there's a lot to talk about davening. What I'd like to accomplish tonight, that is Hashem, to talk a little bit about the benefits of davening, the challenges, the real players, what's really happening when we daven, and sorry about that. Sorry. There we go. Okay. What's really happening when we daven? If we have time, we'll talk about the elements of the Tefillah curriculum and some teaching Tefillah tips. I'd like to begin with just a small story that happened while I was a principal, and because I've seen this myself. You know, there are a lot of times you just talk things which you've heard other people say and things which are written in Sfarim, and you repeat them. But I could tell you, this is something that I saw over the course of, I saw how the ripple effect of one teacher, 3 generations. It goes back years ago when I was principal at Prospect Park. A teacher came to me and told me that a teacher did something with her years ago when she was in 7th grade. And it was so memorable, it touched her life forever. And her davening has never been the same since. And she'd like to do that with her class. She told me what it was, that once a week, they focus by Maidim, they think about something that they want to thank Hashem for. And it was a very concentrated discussion. Every day there was something else with Tefillah, but when it comes to Maidim, something that they really, really, really thank Hashem for. It wasn't just stam, it was something which they really processed. Oh, sure, go ahead to do it, no problem. Okay, end of the story. Years later, I hired a student who was a teacher who was a student in the school. And she says, I remember when I was in 7th grade, we had Mora Shapansky, and she did this thing with us and really touched her davening. So she'd like to do it as well. So I said, sure, very nice idea. And I'm already remembering how Mora Shapansky had said she heard it from her teacher. Beautiful idea, and really changed her davening. And this teacher, she really had a beautiful Tefillah program. Fast forward, this original teacher that I hired, unfortunately, she had a child who was born blind, and she processed it. She became a speaker after that. She was a high school teacher. She had to speak all over the place. And people asked her, how do you take it so well? And she said, when I was a student, I learned to thank Hashem by Maidim. And I really thanked Hashem. For every little thing that happened to me, I thanked Hashem. Hashem gave me so much good in my life. Hashem was always so good to me. I saw Yad Hashem in everything. I see Yad Hashem in this as well. So here we see that a teacher many years ago, 30 years ago, did something, and she taught it to her students taught it to their students, and this one, and generations of this. So therefore, when you teach your students about something, there's a ripple effect. Now, something else about davening, that's the power of role models. I remember when I was little, looking at the picture, similar picture to this one, and I was thinking, why is he sitting there davening with his talis? Like, where's everyone? Like, what's this all about? I remember thinking about this picture. And the other one on the records, I remember also being puzzled about that picture. You look at pictures and things go into your head. You're not sure what. These are little images that you see when you're little. Right? Look at all these pictures. You're by the Kaisel, all right? You see somebody davening with so much kavanah. These are all pictures. This one I was talking about. Just seeing pictures impact children. There are lasting results. When you daven like a mensch, you daven with kavanah, you daven with your whole heart, people are seeing you, children are seeing you, and you do not know whose life you impact. So that is the first thing, that when it comes to davening, we have to be role models for our children, for our students, and we also have to think about our students. Who are the role models for them? Are they going to shul and seeing this type of davening? And if they're not, then we have to expose them to such pictures and have discussions about them. And ask, what do you think they're doing? What is it all about? What is this experience that they're having? There's something that's going on. When this person is davening here, and he's sitting with a tallis in shul, there's something that's going through his head. Okay. Now, what is tefillah? Tefillah is much more than it seems. We think tefillah is like a ritual. You just know, this thing you do in the morning, you daven, and you daven 3 times a day, 2 times a day, 1 time a day, brachas, whatever it is. Tefillah is a thing that you do. It's a ritual. But it's really not. Now, okay, fine. We know. Okay, it's not a ritual. It's bakasha. Really? It's bakasha? How much of davening is bakasha? If you think about the davening, most of it is not bakasha. Just Shemana Esrei is bakasha. Even for Shemana Esrei, you don't have all that much bakasha. Tefillah is more than, yeah, it's true that it's bakasha. You know, that's the Shemana Esrei part. You have 19 brachas. First 3 are Shabbat, the last 2 are Adar, and in the middle 13 are bakasha. But there's a whole lot more of davening. So what is davening? So the first time we see the davening, or actually we see the root of davening in Chumash, is the word Naftali. Rachel named her child Naftali because the word Naftali, like him, Niftalti, I became connected with my sister. The idea of davening, is a connection. So now we see from here that davening is about connection with Hashem. What's this connection all about? So we have to understand who's connecting to what. Now we have to understand a little bit about the neshama. Our neshama comes down very pure, very holy. It's bright, it's shining brightly, it's a fully charged battery. By the way, do you see my cursor? Do you see when I'm moving? You see that? Okay, fine. All right, it's a fully charged battery, it's shining brightly. The neshama has Kabbalah soul, it wants to follow all the mitzvahs. But as time goes on, it starts to lose its connection. And the reason why it starts to lose its connection, because there's the Yetzer Hara, there's the Nefesh Bahamis, there's the Guf, and they try to distract it. So the neshama starts to lose its connection, the battery's wearing out a little bit, it's getting covered, there's really a light shining in there, but it gets covered and cloudy, and the battery's burning out a little bit, and it's starting to lose its connection. It's not charged any longer. It needs to be charged. And when the neshama starts to lose its connection, because of the guf of the Yetzer Hara which try to distract it, it's hard to do mitzvahs properly. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have the input of that shining light coming into his neshama. So the neshama needs to recharge. It must strengthen its connection. So just like a phone, we literally charge it, we plug it in. The neshama needs to be recharged. It needs to be plugged in. And when it will be plugged in, it will strengthen its connection. And the way the neshama is recharged is through davening. We reconnect through davening. Because when we daven, we are saying, Heilige Isis. It's not just words in English. They are Heilige Isis. These are Isis that the Abishah created the world with. The Isis put together are making tefillahs. The tefillahs are Yesodot B'Harei Kodesh. It's deep meanings, and these tefillahs accomplish a tremendous amount. These are the codes to getting the tefillahs and to making that connection. So what ends up happening when the girl is davening, is that the neshama, in fact, is being plugged in and it starts to burn bright again. And that is what davening is all about. We reconnect through tefillah. Niftulei Elokim niftalti. I become connected with Hashem. through my davening. And this is a game changer, because when you realize that davening is not just about bakasha, it's about a connection to Hashem, then you look at davening in a totally different way. Now, another aspect to consider when we're talking about davening is hakaras hatov. Hakaras hatov is an integral part of relationships. You're appreciative, you show gratitude. Why do you have to show gratitude? Because you show gratitude. You show the person that you're grateful, you appreciate what they're doing. They'll be inclined to shower more good upon you. And you become a better person when you appreciate what you're getting. Hashem will still give, regardless of whether you're going to daven or you're not going to daven, you're going to thank him or you're not going to thank him. Hashem is going to still keep on giving you, right? But when you express hakaras hatov, what Hashem gave you, you are developing a connection. Are we training our students for hakaras hatov to thank Hashem? Are we training our students for chalal hakaras hatov? Hakaras hatov is an essential idea in Yiddishkeit. Now, the question I have is, which parts of Tefilla are hakaras hatov to Hashem? Now, there's only one person that's on video, and that's Hannah, so I don't have any feedback over here. Oh, hi, how are you? Which parts of Tefillah are hakaras hatov? Is most of the Tefillah hakaras hatov, or most of the Tefillah bakasha? Hannah, you're gonna have to be my audience. Okay.
I think that anyone could go off of mute and answer the question. Definitely, we do have a few on video. Thank you so much.
The bottom line is that most of davening is hakaras hatov to Hashem. We are speaking about praises of Hashem. We are thanking Hashem. We're expressing what Hashem has done in this world for us, for the world, for everything, all about Hashem. And that is an important part of Yiddishkeit, an important part of davening. So we spoke about gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, which is a challenge and error in an age of entitlement. We actually should be approaching Hashem like a poor man begs for tzedakah. I don't deserve anything. Please give it to me. So here you have a girl davening. These pictures are actually from the Tefillah curriculum. A girl davening, all right? I don't deserve all of this, but Hashem, please give this to me anyway. Can we get our students to such a level? This would be amazing if we could. Now, davening is actually a gift. And this is something that would be wonderful if we could impress our students about that. Unfortunately, the way our students look at davening is that it's just something you have to do. You just do it. You start your day with davening and you do it, you get it over with. And by the time you say Elena, you're already, closing your siddur and walking out. All right? It's just something to do. But it's not. Davening is a gift. Hashem gave us a gift. And the reason why it's a gift, there's two things. Number one is you're aware of the presence of your neshama, which means that you are aware that you have a direct connection to Hashem. And neshama is not nothing. Hashem is a piece of Hashem in you. That means Hashem is always connected. You are always connected to Hashem. That's powerful. That means wherever you go, Hashem is with you. Hashem is with you always. Now let's start looking at this in the words of davening. Hashem is with me. I will not be afraid. I actually picked up this idea from my granddaughter, who was 4 years old in preschool, and she was singing Adar Ne'elam, and then, of course, she didn't understand the word of Adar Ne'elam, but then she ends off with, Hashem is with me, I will not be afraid. And I look at her and said, hey, right, you're right. You just said a very, very powerful statement. Hashem is with me, I will not be afraid. In your hands, I give over my neshama. These are powerful words. Rabbis machshavos belev ish v'atzas Hashem yisakum. Very nice pasuk to help us through difficult situations that we're going through now. Whatever's going to happen with politics, whatever's going to happen with Iran, whatever's going to happen wherever, people could think whatever they want to think. But what Hashem wants, that's what's going to be. Hashem is good to everyone. He has Rahmanas on all his creations. Don't trust. Don't put your trust in people that they can't help you. Hashem, open up your hands. This is the most important pasuk of all of Ashrei. They don't say money to go back to it. Hashem opens his hands, satisfies everybody according to their needs, according to their wants. Oz Yashir is a whole discussion unto itself. Oz Yashir is mamish full of bitachon and emunah. You have seen Hashem's salvation, how all the nations were tittering from Bnei Yisrael, and it should happen again. These are powerful tefillas, and we just harness if we understand them, and then we can harness the emunah bitachon that it gives us. If we could really have kavanah, because we really understand what it means. Okay, so this is one discussion, one aspect of tefillah, that tefillah connects your neshama. All this, what we're talking about here, really charges your neshama. You think about these things, your neshama is now full. You're good to go. Okay. And again, you're not davening chaplap, you're davening with kavanah, you're thinking about what you're saying. You start your day, and you with all these messages about Hashem's connection to us and our dependence on Hashem, and Hashem is with us always, and we will not be afraid. Everything is wonderful. Okay. There's another aspect of tefillah, and that's the Yetzer Hara. When we daven, the Yetzer Tov is in charge. The Yetzer Hara is losing the fight, and we know that. Okay, we know that from Tanya. Now, why is it important to know this? Now, you recognize the Yetzer Hara from the Tzivos Hashem book. Okay. Now, why is it important to know this? Because the Yetzer Hara does not want us to connect to Hashem, and the Yetzer Hara is going to distract us. It will distract us. It's a funny thing, my mind wanders when I daven. Why doesn't my mind wander any other time? Why does it dafka wander when I daven? Because in the Yetzer Hara is making it wander. Because the Yetzer Hara knows that if I concentrate, I will connect. The Yetzer Hara is trying its utmost to get me not to have kavanah. So if you know that, then you know your enemy, you know what's going to happen, and you know what to do to stop it. Now, talking about kavanah, I just want to go off on a tangent for a second, that kavanah is a very difficult thing. One part of having kavanah is when you notice that you're not having kavanah, what you could do is you could say, Hashem, please, I'm not having kavanah right now. Please, help me have kavanah. Okay, and then I find that it goes back to, you go back into kavanah mode. Okay. So that is why it said, Chazal say that avodah shebalev is tefillah, because tefillah is work. It is actual work. The neshama is speaking to Hashem through the body, right? The mouth is talking. The whole body gets energized with ruchnius. It's a relationship between Hashem and you, and a relationship takes time and takes effort to build up. And it doesn't happen. It's an avodah. To daven properly is an avodah. But it's an avodah shebalev. It's a avodah in the heart. And once you have that relationship, it is priceless. There's nothing more important than this. But then I ask you, how much time do we spend developing this? It doesn't happen on its own. Just saying that avodah shebalev is like tefillah and having a nice chazal and having a nice song before is not making you have a relationship with Hashem. It's got to be built up. Yes.
Mr. Shapiro, we're gonna wind down in a few minutes, if that's okay. But before you finish, if you could just make sure to stick in a word or two about your curriculum.
Okay. So children are very pure. Whatever you tell them when they're little sticks with them. And they recognize when you say the truth. I'd like to point out, and I don't want to forget about that. Yeah, we're gonna go through this.
You're whetting our appetites for more by going through these slides.
Okay. We're all in this together. It's a challenge. It just takes one teacher in one school to change the culture of the school. That's all. I don't know how many schools we have represented over here, but I hope we have a bunch. And please go back to the school and say, I want to daven. I want my class to daven properly. I want to put in effort into improving the davening in the school. That's all it takes. Just one teacher in one school to change the culture of the school. You will change generations of students and their homes. A kid is going to come home davening beautifully. You think the mother's not going to say, hey, look, that's nice. All right. You really could affect it. There's ripple effects. And networking with other schools is a fabulous idea. Okay. You want me to talk a little bit about my curriculum? Okay. I want to say one thing before. Okay, this is what I want to say. Davening is a personal thing. It's your personal connection with Hashem. Kids should really be connecting to Hashem, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's every child's neshama expressing itself. And therefore, I think we should rethink the amount of tefillas we daven in school. Rabbi Chadakov had said, school is not the place to daven. It's a place to learn how to daven. So keep davening to the minimum. There's no reason to daven on and on and on. Davening is about connecting to Hashem, and what you're doing is you're taking a half an hour to disconnect the kids to Hashem. Davening should be as much as they can handle with tamimus and with sincerity. Once they start to glaze over, it's too much already for them. They have to build themselves up for readiness to continue with davening. Some schools feel, well, you have to teach these tefillas in this grade and those tefillas in the next grade. So by the time they get to high school, they're going to know how to daven everything. No, they're going to know how to daven everything in high school when they're ready to daven everything. There's no need to daven everything. Now, I'm not talking about boys. Boys have an Indian davening with a minyan, and it's a different story. I'm talking about girls, right? Girls should be davening the least amount that they have to with good kavanah, proper kavanah. Once there's no kavanah, the davening is, if they don't understand what they're saying and they have no interest in the davening anymore, you're spending time disconnecting and not connecting. And therefore, I question giving marks for davening, and I question having contests for davening. What message are you giving? It's a personal thing. And davening is certainly not the time to correct students' Kriya mistakes. If they're davening incorrect, they're saying something incorrectly, let it go, and then later have a Kriya lesson where you pull out the davening thing and say, let's read it properly, let's see what mistakes we're making. But definitely not while they're davening. When they're davening, it's their connecting time to Hashem. Don't stop it. It's not a Kriya session. Now, since that feels the personal connection with Hashem, I have some suggestions. Make children responsible for their own tefillah. Have them mark themselves. Today I davened with more kavanah. I was thinking about it, which tefillah I thought, after the davening, what I thought about during a certain tefillah, whatever works for your grade level. It's not one size fits all, and consider the individual learning styles of children. Some children could sit and daven and say everything straight. Some children have to sing. Some children have to do motion. Some children have to stand and sit and shuckle. It's their neshama expressing itself as long as you're actually, the neshama is actually talking. But very often with little kids, what the problem is that they started off singing davening in preschool, so it was all like one big thing. They have a circle and they play games in the circle and they daven, they sing songs, and they just continue. And when they're in first grade, they're continuing to do that. So that's why you have kids that are not davening with kavan, with tamimus, because they never really got that break from the preschool game, like circle time. Anything else? Okay, the elements of tefillah curriculum. Chana, what do you want me to do now?
Can you give us 2 words about what kind of curriculum you created, and we'll let everyone know how to contact you.
Okay, so the curriculum is Marduba, are you using my curriculum?
I just got your 2 books that you sent us, so now we can start.
Okay, all right. The Tefilla curriculum, there's 2. Okay. There are 2 parts. There's the Birchas HaShachar, and that's a journey of a Karsatayv. This is the basic premise of the Birchas HaShachar. We go through a Karsatayv, Ani, the layout of the text. Everything is worked out that they understand what the words mean. There's pictures. There's a lot of comprehension questions. They're actually working very carefully with the text to see what the text means and how the text says it. This is the Birchas HaShachar. A lot of review. And this is Shemana Esrei. Shemana Esrei starts off with an invitation to the palace. You're going to meet the king. But then there's a discussion, why is the king inviting me? We talk about a king. I actually tried this out of my grandchildren. I told them you're invited. I showed them this thing going to the palace. By the way, all my curriculum is child tested. I try it out on different age children, and based on their input, I make a lot of changes.
What grade is this intended for?
What
What grade is this intended for?
This one, I started it off for 3rd grade,
Both, yeah.
but no, but it's up to 8th grade also. 8th grade, I
Okay.
make levels. So 8th
Okay.
grade is this as well.
Amazing,
It's just,
amazing,
there's more information and less information. 20th
beautiful,
grade level. So my
beautiful.
grandchildren said, I don't want to go to the palace. I said, why not? You're going to the king. King? I don't want to go to the king. So why not? Kings chop off your heads. All right. So I realized, okay, we have a wrong vision of the king. Now we're talking about Shem as the king, like all we know about chopping off heads. Okay, I have to change the image of a king. Okay, so why is the king invited me? So now we built up. It's Avinu. He's our father. He's my father. He loves me. He wants to spend time with me. He enjoys when I tell him about my life. He always listens. You see, over here already came to a picture, an image already transposing the father and the king. All right. He enjoys giving me things. And he's also Malkain, he's also my king, making me everything because he's the king who created everything. He is my melech, and I listen to everything he said, and that's why I want to go. And then we progress through the lessons. Because I'm going to the king, how do I dress when I go to the king? How do I feel when I go to the king? And then we get into Hilchos Shmini Esrei. What I should do, what I shouldn't do. Right? And these are all Hilchos Shmini Esrei which are generated by the students. The teacher didn't give them one halacha. They themselves said all the halachas. They themselves came up with this entire list of halachas.
Wow.
Of course, the teacher is guiding them in that direction, but it's all discovery. It's all in a way that the children, they're questions that pique their interest and generate discussion, and then they end up with information they have to have. Now, this is a very interesting. This whole thing is a trip to the palace, which is the whole davening. Basically, so she got the invitation to the palace, and she's thinking about going to go to the palace. I'm really excited for the palace. They have all the answers, so don't look at this side yet, okay? So she's going to the palace, and she's thinking about, oh wow, the king has done so much for me. King, and she's on the way to. Don't look at any of this. This has all the answers. And then she's going, and she says, oh, beautiful countryside. It's so beautiful, the landscaping. This gets closer to the palace. You see all the soldiers and the guards outside, and the palace is so gorgeous. The king has so many servants. And she's standing outside the door of the palace, the door of the king, and she can't believe how she's about to speak to the king. This basically is the trip through davening. This is our trip through davening every day. We start with Birchas HaShachar, where we thank Hashem for everything Hashem has given us. And the whole Birchas HaShachar curriculum discusses that. All right, so, and that's why, and that's why you learn Birchas HaShachar in the 2nd grade very well. And you understand, and you review it all the time, so you understand that all of Birchas HaShachar is thanking Hashem. Then this is Psukei D'Zimra. What a beautiful, glorious world Hashem has created. I feel so excited to see it. I was really Hasidic wrapped into here about feeling. The Psukei D'Zimra is about feeling. Then we're up to Birchas Kriya Shema. Birchas Kriya Shema is about all the servants are close to Hashem, the Malachim, what's happening up in Shemayim, their reaction, Kedusha and all that, right? That is already outside the palace. And this is outside the king's door. This is already that you're thinking about how great the king is. And this is already Shema, we can compose all Shemayim, and then you finally standing in front of Hashem by Shemini Esrei.